lights up a room when he walks in the door. Evan White, with so many strong ideas, he's creative to the core. Evan White, cause he's been at it for 20 whole years with plenty to show for his illustrious career. So if you're looking to grow your brand, then Evan White is here. Cause talent tech PR is sure to take you very far. The HR tech space has a fresh face, and it'll make your brand a star. Spinning straw into gold and taking flight, you'll be soaring through the sky at incredible heights with talent tech PR from Evan White.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Happy Cinco de Mayo. It's Adam with Serge. What's happening, my man?
Good morning. Yeah, how you doing, Adam?
I am feeling chipper. I was at the Knick playoff game, round 2, game 1 versus the evil Sixers. Knicks won by 39. It was a total rompage. Brunson and Cat were just dominating. Bridges showed up. Deuce had a couple ones, and they got it done, and it was a statement game. Now, listen, I understand the Sixers were coming off a crazy Game 7 a couple nights before against Boston, so they were beat up. But that's what you got to do as a team. When the other team is down, you got to take advantage. You get the win.
What was the vibe in the arena?
The energy was absolutely off the charts. It was incredible. For me, I mean, I've talked about this before. A native New Yorker, Madison Square Garden is my church. It's my church for music. It's my church for sports. Not the Rangers, because I hate the Rangers. But for the Knicks, I love it. There's no better place to see a concert. And the energy inside, outside, there's nothing like New York playoff, whether it be baseball, football. It's just a place to be. So my voice is a little sore, also a little sore, still recovering from Miami last week. I was down there for the Possible.
Yeah. Tell me about it. So what was the conference?
Yeah, so Possible is a marketing conference focused on ad tech, martech. So it's the biggest names. It's the Googles of the world. All the ad tech, martech platforms are there. Buyers, sellers on either side. Fantastic panels. Obviously, lots of conversation around AI. But similar to our industry, we're at the point now. It's like, okay, AI is everywhere. Now, what are we doing with it? How are we regulating it? What does compliance look like? But really fascinating as a recruiter in this space to get myself back out there in the arena and not do podcasting. Go out there and just actually network. And there was a few of us recruiters there, and I know a couple of them, but for us to work the room and build those relationships was special. And Miami is my second home. I love it. It was, full class all the way for the most part until the sun went down.
I'm really curious to know as far as what the conversation around AI looks in that industry compared to our world here in HR tech and HR. Is it very similar, or like?
Yeah, I mean, you're
in a different way.
Yeah, it's interesting too. So I think at the core, it's the same idea as I mentioned before, where we're moving away from it being this new thing to it being commonplace, and these companies not just slapping AI and everything, but what are you actually doing with it? And it's really interesting too. There was a lot of conversation around how do you still keep the human part of the process. So there was lots of conversations, and one of the pieces we're going to talk about in a little bit with the Microsoft story, another conversation was upskilling and reskilling employees. I poked the bear a little bit with some executives and had some really interesting, candid conversations. But before we get to that, I just want to remind everybody, welcome to the Purple Acorn HR Morning Show. We are part of the Purple Acorn Network. You can find out more at purpleacornnetwork.com. Thanks to our marquee sponsor, calendarpa.com. Please check that out. It's much better than cal.com. Calendly, I swear, go check it out. Follow us on LinkedIn. Follow us on YouTube. We're a podcast. We're here every Tuesday. And follow us on LinkedIn. Serge, what's happening in your upper neck of the woods?
Upper neck of the woods. We were talking about this in the green room, but this is season where we start coaching soccer, start coaching baseball, softball. It's kind of, if you have kids, this is the busy season.
Coach's season.
It's a coaching. Yeah, it's so busy,
Got
but
my on, by the way, next.
I love it. I love, first of all, watching my kids play a sport and be passionate about it. I love coaching them. I think every kid should play a team sport because it correlates to the world of work in the future. There's nothing like it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, confidence and everything. And there's so many dynamics to it from a coaching perspective. And the piece that I love, too, and I'm going to say this in the least creepy way possible, really is about, coaching these kids that aren't yours these are 7, 8 year olds, and they're learning and they're developing and they're building confidence. And there's a divide in our baseball league of the haves and the have-nots from experience. You have kids that play in the travel leagues that are experienced, and you have kids like my son who have been in it for a couple of years and they're learning confidence. And you have kids coming in who have no experience. And how do you also work with the kids on, like, oh, don't make fun of the kid who sucks on the team, right? Like, how do you build his confidence? And we're seeing, like, 4 games in, this chemistry develop with the team. It's really cool. They
It's
root
really
each other on. They clap each other up. And even the kid on the team who is, we'll call him the worst, because there has to be a worst. Like in every
yeah,
company,
there's
there's a
always a
worst
worst.
employee, right? But I'm seeing this kid improve at every practice, every game. He's slowly, and I see his dad on the sideline, and like just happy that his kid is doing better. It's like these little things. It sounds corny as hell, but this is what coaching is all about, right? Like you want
Yeah,
to give these kids confidence, and especially in our baseball league, it's PAL, so it's a developmental league.
yeah.
Yes, we're competitive and we want to win, but we want these kids to build confidence and learn the sport and get into it.
So what's the worst thing about coaching youth sports?
Um, I think it's the time commitment, to be straight up with you. Like, for
Yeah.
example, our Thursday games start at 5:30, and then we have to get to the field at 5. And you know what? This is one of the things, Serge. It's an interesting one. I'm lucky that I work for myself, and that
Yes.
ability to block out my Thursday after 4:30. I'm done because I got to get home. If I'm in my office, I got to get him ready. I got to, depending what
Yeah.
field we got to get to. Some of them are closer than others. And as a coach, I got to be there to warm these kids up and get them ready for
Yeah.
the game. So the time commitment, and then it's 9 a.m. practice on Saturday morning, games on Sunday. But as you said, we love doing it. It's not a chore.
No, it's not a chore, and I think about it because, like, I have 3 daughters in sports, and I'm always driving them somewhere. But which is
Right?
great because I'm in the car sometimes and I'm like, I hate driving, but I kind of like this because usually I only have one of my kids, so I'm driving to
Get all.
softball or soccer. And we talk about like what went right, what didn't go
Yep.
as well. Like I love those conversations, and some of the best conversations I've had with my daughters is before or after a game, right? Like just like where they really break it down and they're kind of vulnerable in some ways, which
Right?
I think you have a 12-year-old and I have an 11-year-old, and they're hard to break through sometimes,
Oh,
but
yeah.
sports is where I kind of break through. Like I
It's a very
get
good point.
to be vulnerable, and I like it.
I absolutely love it too. And the other fun part is the technology. I was talking to my buddy at the Nick game last night how much technology is advanced. We use this app called Game Changer, which
Yeah,
keeps live score. Well, you have to actually manually do it, but one of the
yeah,
coaches is putting the scores in. You have real time stats. They also could put the camera up on the side of the fence for baseball, and you could
yeah.
stream the game. So if you can't make the game, you could watch it. And then we go over his stats. And as a coach, I tell him the batting order. And, why did I get moved up or moved down in the order? And you explain to him how baseball works. We need to get someone on base. This is still a game. Once you start hitting the ball, you'll move up in the order. Daddy, I
It's a
want to
life
pitch.
lesson, right? It's
It's life lessons all the way. Kids
yeah,
sports team, just get them out there. Even if they like, let them try it. If they raise their hand, say, I want to do soccer. And you're like, shit, I don't want to get up at 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning in the freezing cold, or flag football that some of them play. This is for them. This gets them moving and all that. So anybody in the comments, like, let's talk about youth sports. We don't talk about it enough here. We don't talk about the other side of our life outside of work. It also it's developmental for us coaches, for our leadership skills. It's like our training ground. If I could train 7 and 8 year olds, I could lead a team here. So jump in the comments. We have a lot to talk about. I'm happy to be here with Serge. We have a bunch of friends down in Atlanta,
we
Hotlanta for
do.
ERE. I went a couple of years ago. It was a really nice, small, intimate conference.
Yeah.
Lots of practitioners, lots of learning. Have you been to an ERE, Serge?
I've never been. I've heard great things about it. It's one of the conference that I do have to attend. We have our friend Joel there. I think Evan is there. I think there's a bunch of people in the industry.
The
So it's
Aaron
always
squad, yeah, the Aaron
yeah.
squad's down there, I think.
The Aaron Squad, yeah. So anytime they come out, everyone tells me ERE is the one where there's the best conversations overall. It is a tighter, smaller group, right? And they're all practitioners, or the
Hmm.
majority are practitioners, which is where you really get some deep insights of what's actually happening. Like this industry is full of people that don't actually do the work. And in some cases, that's even me working on the HR tech side. So it's always good to get that knowledge and those insights from those practitioners that are dealing with this on a daily
Yeah,
basis.
Fink is down there. He's an Atlanta native. He was
Yeah.
complaining to me though that the commute's a little rough from where he lives to there. But again, going back to these smaller, I mean, we talk a lot about the big conferences, but
Yeah.
the smaller conferences, you're with the same people for a couple of days, and it really enables you to have much deeper conversations and build those relationships. I talked about it during TA Week, how much I absolutely loved that element. In addition to loving
Mm.
that event in itself, big fan of TA Week. Shout out to those guys. But get out to those smaller conferences. Raise your hand and do it. So that's my support of ERE and TA Week. And let's get on with the
The headlines.
headline. Let's go to headlines, headlines. Hey, oh, guess what we're talking about? Microsoft CFO flags workforce cuts as AI spending surges. So basically, what we're saying here, Microsoft CFO Amy Hood recently highlighted a shift in the company's human capital strategy, prioritizing building of quote high performing teams that operate with pace and agility over raw headcount growth. So we're seeing this emerging upskilling, reskilling, and my first take on it, if I'm being very just black and white on it, is yes, this is what's happening. Technology evolves, technology moves forward. Upskilling, reskilling, skills in the workplace are going to change, so companies are going to have to evolve. I don't think this article is outwardly saying that they're firing people. It's a bunch of well, they are actually. It is literally
Yeah,
saying,
they are.
but it's because you need to reskill and upskill here, folks. It's just what's happening. I mean, I even don't know how to sugarcoat this one here.
Yeah, well, let's think about it. So reskilling and upskilling, by what we're reading across the board, is layoff. So like,
Mm,
are you getting laid off, then you're going to reskill to try to fit what the job market looks like, which seems reasonable, but also seems very daunting for a lot of folks
mm,
that have been in the labor market for a long time that hasn't
right.
shifted as dramatically. I think about this all the time because I'm seeing this across the board. I'm even seeing massive companies in Canada and the US laying off huge numbers. Part of like, maybe I'm a little bit dystopian here, but if we have no one working at one particular point, because I think the unemployment
Who's it gonna
numbers
work?
are complete bullshit. Like, I think the unemployment numbers in the US are way higher than what's being shown. Same across the world. I don't think
Agree.
there's a lot of people out there that don't have work. At one point, if we don't have people working, we don't have consumers, and we don't have
Hmm.
consumers of these products. We don't have consumers of the products that Microsoft sells to different companies that have employees that use this. Maybe I'm just bringing it a little too far, but I'm like, there's going to be a breaking point with all these layoffs and headcount reductions by these massive employers.
Well, it's interesting, and sorry, let me get the mic. Look, when I was at Unleash, I interviewed Jess Von Bank, and she used the analogy that we are building the Titanic. We know we're building the Titanic. We know the Titanic is going to crash, but we still keep moving it forward because the momentum is too strong. There's no way to turn this ship.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that analogy?
Well, I think it's very accurate. No one's going to back down. And you think about, so you probably have the opportunity to talk to a lot of folks in Silicon Valley that are building these
Mhm.
tools. I know I do. And I can tell you, I know the message out there is like it's to help employees, and we see it in all the marketing, even in HR tech
Yeah,
marketing, as far as this
absolutely.
is to optimize recruiters, give them better tools. But in reality, what they're trying to do is they're trying to replace headcount. They're building these technologies to replace headcount. We can argue if that's right or wrong. Like, in reality, this is how the world works. We evolve, we just figure out different ways.
It's
But let's not
efficiency.
be fooled. Like, these tools, these AI tools and companies are being built to replace headcounts. And this is going to be a discussion we're going to need to have pretty soon. I think there needs to be governance is the key here, right? Like, we
Yeah.
can't let this just roll. I equate it to the smartphone. Like, we all have a smartphone in 2010. when they first came out, we now all have them, but we look at, has it been great for society in general?
Oh, terrible. No, absolutely not.
It's been terrible. It's been like the young folks coming up are the only generation with lower IQ, less aptitude than folks before. Like we're actually
Mm,
going backwards. Attention span has disappeared. So sorry, I'm being
absolutely.
really negative today about all of this, but I read these articles and I'm
ADD,
like,
I mean, all these things are on the rise. You could definitely attribute a lot of this to overstimulation from devices. You can to some extent.
but
That's all other
you,
time. We're gonna park that one over there, but we're
yeah.
gonna
Well,
right,
well,
but
let's talk about as far as because you just went to a Marcom conference, right?
right.
And we're talking about there's a human side of it, and I think at one particular point, companies like Microsoft, Meta, there's going to be a breaking point of I want to deal with actual people. I want to deal with someone actually doing the work, and it might affect their business long term. Maybe not
Well, here's
Microsoft.
here's what I want to go back to. I go back to the time I'm going to call it 20 years ago, when a lot of these big credit card and consumer service companies decided to offshore all of their customer service, overseas, right?
Yeah,
Because they wanted to save some money on it. And what happened? Customers went down. There was attrition. People were because they weren't satisfied. They weren't feeling it.
yeah,
And the company said, you know what? It's worth the investment back on the human side to have human customer. I mean, U.S. based customer service for U.S. based customers. And that analogy is kind of, I think, where we're going now, where people are like, you know what? I need to connect with a human. I still need to talk. And even there was a bank. I saw an ad the other day. I forgot what bank it was. It literally was, we're actually building more branches. We're building more branches instead of having all these just ATM storefronts, because people still have questions that need to be answered by a human. They still want to engage, and those companies doubling down on relationships, experiential, getting back to analog. Those are the companies. Pause on that for a second. I want to go back to your point that really resonated with me. These big companies bastardizing their customer base at the expense of the bottom line, and when are those two things going to equilibrium? Equal hit bottom.
yeah. No, I completely agree. I think it'll be interesting what happens in the next couple of years. Next 5 years, it's going to be very different for our kids that are coming up than it ever was. But overall, I think we always figure it a way, right? We always find a way to make the world work, and I think we'll just have to adjust to what AI means in this space. But how about we jump to the next headline?
Yeah, sounds interesting. Fraud, 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 fraud.
Fraud,
H
fraud.
one B fraud.
Yeah, it's so H-1B visas is always something that I've looked at because I'm really curious coming from different countries.
You're a T
Obviously, we
one. You're a T1 kind of guy, right?
yeah, exactly. So here's the breakdown. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton is investigating 30 companies for alleged H-1B visa fraud. They
Mm-hmm.
call this ghost offices. So companies are accused of setting up fake or inactive office to sponsor foreign workers. What's happening here is like we're seeing a crackdown both on state and federal levels. And we're seeing some of like freezing and restricting some H-1B altogether, which I don't know if this is a big issue, but I've been seeing this in Texas quite a bit, right? And I do think there is some fraud happening. There's always frauds that happening in
There's
whatever
always
government
frauds in
program there
anything.
is in anything.
Well,
But what's your thoughts here?
well, there's an interesting one too. I thought with the new Trump administration, generally speaking, they were going to limit the amount of H-1B visas in an
Yeah,
attempt to keep more jobs in the U.S. So in theory, taking away all the politics, I agree with that in a lot of ways. I'm like, let's keep jobs here. But if
yeah.
those jobs can't be filled by U.S. workers because of for whatever reasons they don't want to do them, they don't have the skills. You know what? Why can't we look elsewhere? These companies still need to have those employees, and you want to give folks opportunities. Fraud happens in any environment. You need to put out all these, protection, these guardrails in place, because otherwise it just runs rampant. I mean, that's the bottom line here. I mean, I don't know what to say about this one.
Yeah, I think until we really see what the investigation brings, like how widespread is this? Like how many employees are we talking about? Are we talking about thousands? Are we talking about hundreds of thousands? I think the number can't be that high because just of the total H-1B visas out there.
Yeah,
But in
take out the
reality, anytime
population.
you're going to come out with these types of programs, there's going to try to exploit it in some ways. And this is where we need to trust the government in some ways to be able to
How about that?
control and limit the fraud that happens here. If
Well,
it's not only happening in Texas, I'm assuming, but I'm assuming
it's got
based
to
in
be.
government, there is something happening in Texas that's causing this. I think we've seen some areas of Dallas where it seems that there's a large immigration pool that's coming in and there's questions being raised, and obviously then the government is investigating, and this might happen across every state if they find any nefarious activities here.
There's always going to be fraud in anything there, and you got to keep an eye on that too. I don't know, man. Like, I mean, as a recruiter, one of the things I work with all the time is, visas, and there's
Yeah.
companies that are more open to that. I'm kind of taking a little sidestep on this one. And, previous administrations, it was a lot more open to whether it be Canadian, European, other parts of the world, especially the H-1Bs. And they've tightened it up. And it's, what people don't understand, what candidates don't understand is also there's a cost for an employer
Yeah.
to bring someone on. There's legal fees, there's transfer fees, and it really depends if a company could absorb that cost or not. And I think
So
that a
what
lot
is
of
the
candidates,
cost though, Adam?
it could vary, right? I mean, it could be anywhere from I've seen up to $10,000 to $15,000 potential legal costs on an employer's side. Sometimes it's a very easy transfer where there's
Okay.
really minimal costs. Now, companies have to decide is that cost worth, and then they roll that into the total comp, right? We're
Mm.
offering somebody $100,000, but now we really got to, factor in, a call, 15,000. We can only offer them 85,000, right? There's a lot of consideration points in there, or we're still going to offer them the 100,000. Now we got to eat that 15,000. There's lots of factors in there, and the company size really is a factor. If they could absorb that cost and amortize it out over the rest of their business.
So Adam, like going back to what we are talking, the headline right before, and to here, like what
Yes.
we're talking is a lot of roles are getting laid off, especially if you look at computer science, like software devs. And from my knowledge, and I might be wrong here, is a lot of these H-1B visas have been software or tech type
Mm-hmm.
roles. Is that going to affect this? Is
I
basically,
absolutely. I mean, you have to think that where is most of the AI stuff? It's on the tech sector right now,
yeah.
right? You go vibe coding, right? Like, how do we need all these engineers? What does that look like? And the truth of the matter is, a lot of the engineers come over from outside of this country.
Yeah, they do.
And it's going to be a fascinating space to watch. So, these are the headlines. We want to hear your thoughts in the comments here. Production truck, how we doing over there? We got, I think we have a guest coming in a moment here. But before we get to that, let's roll with the video. Hi, good morning. Putting you on the spot here,
Well,
Lucero. Welcome.
hello.
Good morning. Good
Good
morning.
morning. Good morning. Good afternoon over here in London.
Oh, okay. So on your LinkedIn, it said LA. So you're in London. So I don't feel as
Oh,
bad. So it's not as early in the morning right now.
no. It's fine. LA is an event. We're gonna do, which I can tell you later.
We will get to that. Well, welcome to the HR Morning Show. Why don't we take a moment? If you could kindly introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what you do best over there.
Yeah, sure. So Lucero Tagle, one of the founders of a company called PitchNinjas, and what we do is we help others and professionals and people in general communicate with more confidence, more gravitas, no matter role, no matter tenure, and we mainly work with companies and businesses, but we can also work with individuals. The goal is really to get you to where you want to be with your
How,
communication.
how did you fall into this space?
So how did I fell in? I used to work for Google for
Who?
about 16 to 17 years. Google,
What
the
is this
big,
Google you speak of?
who is it? I don't know. Who are they?
What is? They look for
Um,
stuff. I think people search things, right?
search things on Google, but there's a lot of AI now these days. So, but they have Gemini. So yeah, I spent a lot of time with them. My niche was very much people development, so learning and development, what it's called in other organizations, and very much helping people grow. At the time, I spent like 17 years there, and it was early days was recruiting actually, and
Interesting.
then helping them stay when Twitter and Facebook and all these competitors were coming about.
So let's have a little conversation about the early days of Google. I have some friends that were, the early days. What for anyone out there, just pull back the curtain a little bit on the Google application interview process. Like, what's that gauntlet look like?
Well, I'm sure it's changed from when I started to today, but I think some of the key aspects still exist. Um, in terms of your personal brand and your value proposition. As you can imagine, competition back then was high, and it is still very high. And I think even more now with all this AI and all these competing roles and lack of roles, even.
Absolutely.
But it's very much how you position yourself, how you come across, because you could be competing with like for like. But if you come across and your value proposition is strong and you're succinct and concise and you know what you're saying and you can answer questions to the best of your ability, but with conviction, then that's going to win over someone who's scripted, who has memorized their answers and who comes across very
Mm-hmm.
robotic. They might have better experience and they might have better credentials, but if you're coming across as kind of knowing your stuff, being quite human, and you can hold a conversation with your
Gonna go much
interviewer,
further.
you can go much further. And I think those are the people that win,
So
and more
let's
so these days.
Yeah, so
I'd
let's
say.
let's dig into that a little bit. This is the part I found fascinating when I was doing my research before our interview. And I've said this before, I'm an in the trenches recruiter. I've been recruiting for the last 11 years. So now I'm on the other side. And prior to that, I spent 15 years working in marketing and media. So I interviewed a lot. I've had lots of jobs. I've been hired, fired. I've hired and fired people myself. So I know better than most folks that some people like me are really good at interviewing. And sometimes when the rubber hit the road, my performance maybe was not so good. So how how do you as a candidate like get to that equilibrium point where you could tell your story well, still be a good interview, and also prove your value points and show the receipts? What are some of those frameworks and skill sets?
I'd say, I mean, I like to position it and frame it as a few things. So, can you state what you do, how you think, and why that matters succinctly and easily, as opposed to getting convoluted? So, know your story. Don't get caught up in the details of things. So, I see this a lot. There's people just go in it off on a tangent. You could be technical, you could be non-technical. That certainly happens more when you're technical. Is you just go into the weeds,
Hmm.
whereas the interviewer is right up here, high level. And if you do have a technical interview, well, you're going to go more technical, right?
Right.
But really know your audience. That's also something we say a lot is research. Like you said it, you research, right? Know your audience.
Who am I talking to? What are they doing in the company? Where level are they at? Am I talking to a frontline recruiter, or am I
Yeah,
talking to the final decision maker?
totally. And a lot of people go in kind of in the blind. They might see the name, they might get hung up because it's a senior person or they've made it through a few rounds, or they might take it casually because it's just the recruiter. But in fact, getting to know them, there's lots you can research these days, and kind of picking up on that. I think there you go a long way with that.
How like how personal? I'm sorry, like when you're doing your research on somebody, like how much do you reference someone's career? Like, if you were interviewing me and you're the senior hiring manager and I'm doing my research on you, like how far back should I reference where it's like not getting over the top, right? Where it's not too much.
In
How do
terms
you
of
gauge,
your
how do you gauge that,
experience.
right? No. When I'm kind of referencing your experience, oh, Sarah, oh, I
Oh, right.
oh, I see you worked at Google
Yeah.
for this many years, and you're on this team and that team.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to relate it back, right? You have to tie
Yeah.
the piece. You have to land the plane, right? If you're
Yeah.
gonna ask something, you
Totally.
have to land the plane.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would, is it relevant for the interview? Is it relevant for the conversation is what I would say. Like if you're going back and seeing my LinkedIn all the way back in the dawn of time, well, does it relate? Is it the
No.
topic of discussion today? How I went through my career since I started as a uni student, graduate. Well, then that relates. But for something like this, we're picking up on Google as the most kind of the bulk of my career, and that relates. So I think I choose carefully. Again, know your audience, choose carefully, and bring that to the front.
Let's talk about the importance of the elevator pitch. And I've been preaching this since my time working at American Express. And I've told this story before, but real succinctly, my time was up at American Express. I decided to take a package. And during that time, I had 3 months before my last day. So I took advantage of this outplacement service, which taught me the elevator pitch, to be able to go into any interview and succinctly tell who I am. Here's my story real quick. Here's the value that I bring, and here's what I'm looking to do in your organization. Is that a lost art? I mean, I know it is because I'm a
Mhm.
recruiter, and I can't even tell you how many candidates
Yeah.
cannot properly articulate the easiest part of any interview is tell me about yourself. And the ones that do it well, they stand out incredibly. What are some of those tips, tricks,
That's so
guidelines to
true.
really craft that elevator pitch?
That's so true. And we talk about this a lot. We coach a ton of founders on the 60-second elevator pitch. And so, it's quick. And for you to say who you are and what you do should be even quicker and easier, right? And like you're saying, it gets so caught up in the weed, you get so caught up in the weeds. So back to my point, it's like, what do you do? How do you think and why it matters? Like,
Hmm.
what's your role? What are you doing right now? Are you a founder? Are you a student? Are you this? Are you that? Why does that matter? And why does that matter for the person you're speaking to if it's an interview or if it's somebody else or a stakeholder or someone you want to convince or if you're doing a pitch? And so that's how I normally, that's how we teach when we coach. But what I say a lot when I talk to founders or anyone, you've got 60 seconds, the whole elevator thing, you're going up in an elevator, or you're
It's a
just
real
seeing
thing.
a networking event. Or you bump
60
into somebody
seconds.
at a coffee shop, a dinner party, and you're like, that's, oh my goodness. And they say, what do you do? Well, what
Yeah.
comes out of your mouth, right?
It's easy,
Practice.
and I own it. Like, and I was at a big Marcom. I mean, Google was there. I was at Possible last week down in Miami, and I can't even tell you. I probably had 100 interactions where I had to say who I am and what I do. I'm a recruiter by trade. I recruit MarTech, ad tech. That's my, that's my business passion. I'm a podcaster. Here's what I do there. I mean, obviously, it's a little bit more. A little bit more eloquent than that when I do it. So the other piece I want to talk about also, when I talk to candidates and I coach them kind of through the process, I want to know what you did. What did you do for this specific project? How did you FIFO? How did you figure it out? I want to know your thought process. I want to know how you got there, and I want to know what pieces of that project and business did you own. Do you align with that, and how do you coach through that?
Yeah, completely aligned. And that again is the messaging to get you to be more concise and succinct. And we always say, what changed because you were there? What changed as a result of you doing X? So therefore the impact, right? You can talk about all the things like a laundry list of what you
Mm.
did. It could go on and on. Don't really care about that. But as a result of X, what happened? And that was you, not we. And I always say this, I. So that's
Yes.
also very particular. A lot of people, oh, we did this, we did it.
That's human
We
nature
did,
to say we, right? Like you feel like, oh, I should talk about the
yeah,
teamwork. No, no. I want to know what you did on this project and what effect did it have, and tell me
yes,
if it failed.
yeah.
I like those
Well,
questions too. Like, tell me how a
even
project
better,
failed. So
even better.
what I've been
Yeah,
coaching, and I've been playing with this one. I'm going to beta test this on you. Reframing failures as experiments. When
yeah.
you say,
Oh,
you know
yeah,
what, you know what, like I don't consider it a failure. I consider it an experiment. We had a hypothesis. We
yeah,
tried it out. It didn't work. But here's what we learned from that experiment. So
yeah.
it's a failure if you don't learn from it. It's an experiment because we learned from it.
Totally.
So
We used to say
I've
at
been working
Google,
on that a little bit.
that's a great one because we used to say at Google, why don't you try safe to fail experiments? I mean, call it safe to fail. But again, failure is good. Failure, you learn. Talk about your failures. It's not about the achievements because we all fail.
So I'd be remiss if we don't talk about AI in the process too. There's obviously a lot going out there in the world of candidates either using AI for interviews, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And on the other side of it is like, hey, listen, if companies are using it for screening and sourcing and interviewing, why can't I? And my whole thing is because it's not you. It's not
Yeah.
you. And I've seen it with so much fraud. I've seen people, and I'm trying to be empathetic as a recruiter where there's a lot of good folks on the market and they need every competitive advantage to try to at least get that first interview. So if they fib a little bit on their resume, but the problem is a good recruiter is going to smoke you out in 2 seconds where, especially on a tech role, you don't have those skills. I could tell in 2 seconds that you haven't done anything because you can't properly articulate what that particular, software does. So
Mm.
talk a little bit about how you coach candidates and companies to just live in this world of AI in the process.
Well, our tagline is make every conversation count. And we're very relational. We talk about we're human first. We're not AI first, even though we do have AI in the background to augment the learning. And more companies are coming to us because they want the human first. And so it's these skills, right? The sort of what we call the soft skills, but we're now calling the critical skills
Mm.
of empathy, of reading the room, of facial expressions, even on this call, right? Seeing facial expressions, seeing nods, seeing smiles, that's going to go a long way. And that no AI can replace. You cannot replace that. And as well as sort of what's happening inside. So we don't talk about that when you're coming into an interview. Are you like sweating profusely? Are you getting red in the face? Are you shaking? Are you standing up? Are you sitting down? Are you hunched over? Are you just sitting? None of that is ever discussed, but that says a lot about your persona,
Well,
your
let's talk about
background, even, all of that.
yeah, let's talk about body language a little bit on a video interview too. Like,
Yeah.
not fidgeting, eye contact. Like that's a big thing for me too. When I'm on a video call, they're looking at second screens. Are
Yeah.
they distracted?
Right. Yeah.
How much you're picking up the phone? All these things too. That's critically important. What are some of the core pieces you see people failing on those video interviews? How could they do better?
Well, it is what you said. So when we see the eyes, sort of, where are they? So, look, I'm right here. That's my camera,
Mm.
but you're over here and I see you here, right? That's just my configuration. But then I'm really conscious that I should be speaking into the camera so people can see me, but I do tend to drift down.
I
And you
do the
can
same
see
thing.
that, right?
my,
You
my
see that?
camera's here, but my screen is here. So sometimes if I'm looking at you right now, I'm looking here. But if I want to look at you, I have to
Oh,
look over
there you
here,
go.
and then I can't see my screen.
There you
So
go.
but not everyone has these complicated production setups
Exactly.
here. But I also
But
need to have my notes in front of me.
even then, when you did that, I actually had a little bit like unconscious rapport with you more because I saw you were looking at me. But it is the configuration, and I would just recommend that. Like, go get into the camera and look at the person.
Just look at
Just
the
so far.
person. So let's
Just
talk
go
a
so far.
let's talk a little bit about who you guys work with, how folks get in touch with you, and I hear you got something going on in LA in a couple weeks, next week.
Yes, we do. So we work mainly with corporates, enterprise. We could go big. So we've got great names like Google, Netflix, Pinterest, uh, Warner Brothers, etc. But we also can go small, so medium-sized companies. It doesn't matter. What matters is people. What matters is companies really investing in people when it comes to
Hmm.
their communication, because the investment is all over the place, but not necessarily when it comes to helping people communicate and getting to those goals, especially below the C-suite sort of senior level. We are coming to LA, so we're very excited. It's a conference called ATD, Association for Talent Development, where most of our stakeholders are going to be. So that's HR professionals, chief learning officers, chief people officers, and learning and development folks. So if you happen to be in LA, and you are attending the conference, send me a DM on LinkedIn. I'm quite active, so I'll see that. I'll respond. Equally, we are holding an event, a rooftop event at the Perch. So if you are also LA based, please send me a DM because we're gathering people in the industry just again to have a conversation. No selling,
Interesting.
no pitching. We want human conversation. And that's our aim. We've held events in London and New York, and now we're West Coast. So that's also something that's going to happen on the
Interesting.
19th of May. 19th
Well,
of May. So let me
19th,
get that
19th
clear.
of May. Well, just as a sidebar, I know we connected on LinkedIn. I have something interesting I'll share with you
Okay.
offline that I think is going to be of interest. Always be connecting, always be thinking about
Always.
people. And listen, whether you're a employee at a company, whether you're a candidate, we could always be improving our communication style. We could always be mindful about how we present ourselves to others, how we're perceived by others, and how we could clearly and concisely convey our value, because that's who you are. We're all a brand, and we're all selling something one way or another, but how do you come off with that? And what do you want the end user to feel when they hear your message?
100%. And if you want to DM me as well, I had a little surprise. You can get coaching from one of us founders and a package. So again, send me a DM. We're offering that as well for being on the show.
That's awesome. Production truck, let's get that link up on the screen, whether we do that now or towards the end. Anybody watching us on the replay, we'll have it up there. Lucero, it was absolutely a pleasure to connect with you. Everyone, go over to LinkedIn, check out her profile, connect, DM, and learn more. You are doing the good work that's important out there and keeping the human in the human element that we have in our world. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Well, let's keep on the topic of communication. So, for a long time, I was an HR leader and I would get bombarded by HR tech companies or different vendors trying to reach out to me and sell me their solution. But I would get lost in the noise. It is a very noisy industry and everyone sounds and does the same thing. Then I went over to the HR tech vendor side, and being on that side, I realized how hard it is to break through. It's so hard to break through that noise, to differentiate yourself, to really do something that the rest of the companies in the space are not doing. And obviously, I found a solution. And that solution was working with Evan White and Talent Tech PR, because when it comes to breaking through the noise, no one does it better in this space than Evan. Evan knows everyone. He knows all the influencers, knows all the companies, knows everyone that is important and that you need to know. But the biggest thing is he doesn't come from this industry. He's coming in. He's been here in this space for 4 or 5 years, but he's come in with IDs that are breaking through because they are different. They're coming from a different world. So if you are an HR tech vendor, and I know there's a lot that listen and watch this show, you got to reach out to Evan. You got to reach out to Talent Tech PR because you need to figure out a way to break through this noise. And we all know how noisy it is in this space. Everyone's trying to sell a solution, and everyone feels and looks and is exactly the same thing. So, how do you break through that? You work with Talent Tech PR and our friend Evan White. All right, let's jump into today's sweater, and I want to talk about agile workforce. Agile workforce is being used a lot, but there is a storm brewing underneath all of this. So companies are being very aggressive on gig work right now. So you're seeing contract, freelance, project based, you name it. And look, I get why companies are doing that. It's faster, it's cheaper, it's way less commitment than hiring full time. But let's call it what it is. For a lot of companies, agile is just a nicer way of saying a whole lot less risk for us. And there's a problem with that because workers feel and are taking all of that risk. So they have unpredictable income, no benefits, no health care, no real security. So while companies are out there selling flexibility and why it's great for them, candidates are sitting there thinking, yeah, this feels quite unstable because flexibility without stability, that's not really a perk. It's a big gamble from the employee's viewpoint. So, if companies actually want this to work, when we're talking about agile workforce, they've got to meet people halfway. We need better consistencies, some form of benefits, right? Like a lot of folks, even though the job market has changed, they still have kids, they still have responsibilities, and they need to be able to secure that. So they're also looking for a little bit more structure, knowing when they should be working, where and how, and having that ability to feel like they're being taken care of is really critical. So otherwise, people will keep choosing the thing they trust, even if it's not perfect. So the bottom line here, we can talk about agile workforce. It sounds great in a deck, but right now with employees, it's got a massive credibility issue. And unless we change that, the agile workforce will never really work for employees. And if it doesn't work for employees, it's not going to work for employers. That's your HR weather. Let's get back to Adam.
And it's a very interesting topic too. Like, how do you measure that? Like, how do you measure agility? What are the KPIs on agility? Because there's a lot of factors that go into it. I mean, I think there's some roles that are hard numbers. If you're in a sales role, we could tell
Yeah.
your performance, right? If you're crushing your numbers, I don't give a shit. Pardon my French. I don't care where you work,
Yeah.
right? If you're doing it, if you're hitting your numbers, so and what does agility mean? The ability to change, adapt while still performing is like, what are the guardrails there?
Well, I think if we look at how employers look at it,
It's
agile
performance.
workforce is basically a nice sounding word to cover we don't need to hire employees full time. We're just going to hire a bunch of gig contract freelance so we can cover our costs and be as low as possible. And let's face it, in this current labor market, they do have that option because
Yep.
there's definitely less options for the employees that are looking for
And
jobs. And at the end of the day, you have to pay your bills. So it's kind of being forced upon a lot of employees. But don't get me wrong, like there's definitely a rise in fractional type
big time.
workers. Like people are looking for it, right? And if you think about like we were talking about coaching our kids at softball or like baseball or soccer, like having that flexibility to me is absolutely critical so I can do those things. So I'm
Hmm.
open to an agile workforce, but that's not the situation for everyone, right? Like,
No, some people really need that structure, stability,
yeah,
and let's talk about it too. Gig work economy, it's a lower overhead because you're not paying
yes,
insurance, you're not paying benefits on that. People need it. How are you going to afford the benefits? We can't go to a full gig economy.
no,
You have to reinvent the entire. Well, it should the healthcare system should be reinvented, but people rely on that. I mean, I look at my own situation. I'm able to be an agile solopreneur because my wife has a stable W-2 job with benefits.
yeah,
And if I
same
didn't
here.
have that, I'd be screwed.
Yeah, same here. That's a really good point because if you think about the American healthcare system, and I'm talking about it from an outsider's perspective,
Mm-hmm.
it really looks like it was built around employment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Employment is
Right.
tied to healthcare,
Directly.
and the system has always been like that. But as the, I guess, labor market is shifting, going more to freelance contract type, like what do you do in that case, right? Because
Mm.
if you have kids, if or even yourself, you should have healthcare, and there's a massive cost to doing that as a solopreneur. And I'm in the same boat, obviously a little bit different, but if my wife wasn't working full time at a full time gig, doing what I do would be a lot harder, almost
It
impossible.
would be a lot harder, and it's rough out there. I mean, if you're a single person out there, how do you manage that? Where you're like, I can't afford to run my own business or be a contractor and have health benefits. It's
Yeah.
a slippery slope out there. But we're curious thoughts in the comments. Ooh, who knows what we're going to discuss next week? Who knows who's going to be our host for next week as we get back to it? But we're excited. I'm interested to hear the recap from the squad over at ERE, some
Yeah.
key learnings there. Speaking of the weather, the weather is turning. Oh, I got a fun little story for you.
Okay.
This is my studio office here, not in my home. I've been here for 7 years, and for a long time, the windows could not open. They were fire locked. About a month or two ago, they came in and they put new locks on. So now I'm able to open the windows. Spring is here. Air is, fresh air coming in. So I have a call with my client yesterday at 3:30, and at 3:29, I'm looking over. I'm about to dial in, and I see this giant bee, but not a nice bee. It wasn't like a cute little bumblebee. It was a
Yeah.
big ass bee come flying in. And now I'm like a minute away from my call, and I'm a lover of bees. Bees are important to this world, and I tried my best. I will never want to kill a bee. But it was either me or this bee going on in this thing. And I'm sitting there and I'm battling this bee. I can't find it. It's coming after me. I'm missing it. I'm trying to smack it with my sweatshirt. And finally, I think I get it. So I'm on the call. It's like 3:31. I shut the window again. And all of a sudden I hear, zzz, zzz, zzz.
Like,
Now I can't find it. And I say to my client, I'm like, oh my God. Where's the bee? I say, Bailey, I gotta go find this bee. So I shut the camera off and I'm running around. And finally, I found the bee. And it was either me or the bee, and that was it. But it was a little precarious right there. I'm stuck in this room here, and I thought it was going to be my demise. And I
Yeah.
didn't want to go to the Knick game with a giant bee sting situation happening. So there's my little story. It was either me or the bee. It's springtime. Weather's getting nicer. I want everyone out there to go out and
Yeah.
touch grass. I think your ice is defrosting finally up there, right?
Yeah, it's
The
actually
ponds are
really nice
melted.
weather.
Ponds are
Yeah.
melted.
The ponds are melted. We can actually. I don't think I go swim because the water's probably still in the freezing cold category. But
Right.
it's definitely warming up. It's definitely feeling like the thing is about Canada gets extremely warm in
Oh
the
yeah,
summer,
because
right?
you're closer to the sun when the Earth tilts. When I went to school in Buffalo, it was one of the sunniest places in the U.S. during the summertime.
Where I am in Calgary, we get sun 330 days in the year. So
That's great.
which is fantastic in the summer. It gets really hot, and but I don't mind at all. After like this has been a long
Mm.
winter. I don't know
Oh yeah,
how it's been in New York.
yeah.
Like
We had an
here,
old school winter. Yeah,
yeah,
we had an old school
definitely old
winter.
school winter.
Old school winter. So
But
we
another
want
fun show,
to
Adam.
fun, fun. I hope everyone out there enjoyed it. I want to remind everybody to really, follow us, tune in. We're here every Tuesday morning. We roll the dice. We got different guests. We got different hosts. We're keeping it fresh here. I want to thank our friends over at Talent Tech PR and our friends over at Calendar PA. Please support our sponsors. They support our show. They keep us going. Follow us on LinkedIn. And if you want to see more Purple Acorn, check out purpleacornnetwork.com. We're a podcast. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're everywhere you could find your local podcast. I want to thank my man, Serge. I want to thank Alan and Riley in the production truck and everyone tuning in. I wish you all a fantastic Cinco de Mayo Tuesday. Be good to yourself. Be better to others. And catch us next Tuesday right here for the Purple Acorn HR Morning Show. Take care, everybody. Goodbye, Serge.
Goodbye.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.